radical land and acknowledge the role of the union movement to always stand with First Nations people to do more than it's told, but to deliver real Aboriginal justice. It's also bloody good to be at a rally organised by the MUA Sydney branch. They've got some pretty good politics, this mob, don't they? And to come here together to demand the right to strike, not some qualified after a ballot, once these guys approve right to strike, no ifs, no buts, the right to strike for every worker in this country. Fundamental demand, fundamental demand. And yes, as a Greens MP, state and federal, we support change the rules. But the big rule we need to change, the one that everything else hinges on, is the right to strike. The right to strike for your wages and conditions, the right to strike for your comrades' wages and conditions when they're being done over by their boss. The right to join together, withdraw your labour, is a fundamental human right. And this mob in here do not get it. The Unfair Work Act and the Unfair Work Commission, that's got to go. It's got to be torn up. Root and branch, I want to come back here after the next federal election and see a for-lease sign out the front of this place. Because even if we change the rules, this place has become so stacked with right-wing appointments that they still won't apply it to give workers justice. They need to be sacked, they need to be restarted, and we need a genuine workers-focused set of industrial laws. But the last thing I'll say is this: no politician in any parliament just ever gives you anything. No politician, no parliament has ever given anything to working people. They'll give it to the corporations that pay them. But to make politicians deliver on the right to strike, we've got to keep mobilising. We've got to keep building in the streets. We've got to build union density in workplaces, and we've got to force parliaments to act. Because when the laws go through to change the rules and put the right to strike in, when the laws go down to shut this place, that's not going to happen magically. And we need to put extra demands on it. Let's tear down the ABCC. Should never have happened. Let's abolish it. But then let's say to Labor, if you're serious about it, if you really think the ABCC has been delivering brutal unfairness to working people for over a decade, and I do, and the Greens do, don't just shut down the ABCC, but give the CFMEU back every dollar they stole from them.
Well done, Conrad. Today's not just about officials. It's not officials that are on strike, it's workers. And workers have been denied that fundamental right. We have a delegate and activist from Hutchison, Emma Mazzal, who's been leading the campaign for the right to strike out of the Sydney branch. Give her a big welcome.
Thanks, comrades. I'm relatively new working at the docks, but in the short time I've been there, I've already seen firsthand again and again and again how without the right to strike we would have nothing. Starting with 2015 when Hutchison workers went on strike for 6 months to save their jobs, half my comrades wouldn't have a job today if they hadn't done that, and they certainly wouldn't have been able to win me and other new comrades there a job. So I'd like to start by thanking my comrades in Hutchison that fought that fight, thanking the NUA for fighting that fight and showing how important the right to strike is for our basic fundamental right to work. But much more recently we've seen a tragic, devastating incident happen. Many people have asked me about it today, a collision on the wharf, and as people have mentioned, a wharfie, a sister, a comrade of ours, fighting for her life. The response from the company to that accident was one of the most disgusting, appalling, rotten, racist things any of us have witnessed. We've been raising for months and months, our delegates, our HSRs have been putting issues of training, of traffic management, of engineering onto the safety committee agenda and not hearing a word. And the day after this devastating accident that could easily have killed somebody, the first thing that the company did was order people straight back to work in exactly the same conditions and lock our officials out the gate to delegate instructions in our HSRs that we were actually able to stand firm and refuse to continue to work in those same conditions, as is our right under work health and safety legislation, that we held firm and did that for 2 weeks until they finally were forced to the table to make some changes. But I think in terms of the right to strike, what we have to remember is that they still had a crack. It's 100% our right to stop work in unsafe conditions. But because they know they've got these mates in the Fair Work Commission, because they know how much legislation they have on their side, they still thought they'd be better off spending 2 weeks dragging 72 individual wharfies through the courts, dragging the CFMMU through the courts, our new union. They prefer to spend their time doing that, paying for lawyers, paying for advice, rather than sitting down with our delegates and meeting us to have a discussion about how we can make sure this never, ever happens again. And that is why we need the right to strike, because we can't afford to get caught up in these debates about what is and isn't industrial action. We need the right to withdraw our labour, to defend our safety. And if that's the way that they respond to something where the law is clear-cut, black and white, how do you think they're going to respond when we're fighting for our next EBA? How do you think they're going to respond when we want to show solidarity with our comrades at the neighbouring court? Our hands are absolutely tied. We saw what they did to the train. That was a perfectly legal, validated strike. At Hutchinson, we've got our EBA coming up. The Fair Work Commission has proved that they're willing to rule even against a strike that has been validated for. And we cannot wait for Labor to get elected. We couldn't wait for Labor to get elected before we had to make that decision on the job. People's penalty rates have already been cut. They couldn't wait for Labor. Oakey North miners have already been locked out. They couldn't wait for Labor. We need to get rid of this Turnbull government. We need to throw them out. We need to change the rules. But we need to change the rules on the job right now, in struggle, every day, when we're fighting. That's why we need to... We need to break the anti-strike rules.
Comrades, I think that brings an end to the speeches. Oh, no, but yeah, but you're after me. Any lie. Comrades, the decision that we've taken today was an unlawful one. But legality doesn't mean anything when you're faced with a moral question. Is it right for us to defend the wages and conditions that we in generations past have fought for? Yes. Is it right to strike to defend our right to a safe workplace? Yes. Is it right to strike to defend our comrades who are in struggle and who have been made redundant, have been made, who have been sacked? Is it our right to show solidarity with our comrades in the union movement? Yes. Absolutely, it's right. It's our right to protect ourselves and to be safe at work, is it not? Yes. I want to tell you how powerful you are. When you're at home yelling at the TV about how fucked life is, how many coppers stand between you and the TV? None, right? But when you're on a picket line, who's there to protect the boss? The police. Who's there to legislate the boss's rights for them? The politicians. But when it's workers who are out in the streets fighting to protect our lives, fighting to defend our rights and conditions, the police are always there to stand between us and our enemies, and I find that a disgrace, and I say, shame! 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 I can't wait for the day when we have the bravery and the courage to storm buildings like this, no matter who stands in our way. Because I'm telling you, it ain't that far away. We are a union, that Maritime Union of Australia, is worth about $30 million with all of our assets, all of our buildings, right across the country. It's taken over 140 years of members joining their union, strengthening their union and building that asset. $30 million we're worth. How wrong is the laws in this country that will allow a criminal organisation known as VICT or their parent company ICTSI the ability to sue our union for $100 million. Who broke the law? And if they haven't broken the law, the laws are wrong, and we know they are. We have the police to protect those laws. We have the police to protect those companies. We have the police who protect this rotten, unfair work commission. Where were they? Where were they when that rotten, filthy, criminal, corrupt company in VICT stole the wages and conditions of our members? Where were they when 5 workers, not even from our union, a union that has looked after the waterfront for 140 years, when 5 of those workers voted for themselves to get a $140,000 a year job, and every wharfie that came in after him, $70,000. Where were the police then? Where were the courts? I tell you where they were. They were out the front of this joint defending them. Defending them. Q, another stevedoring company, suing the union for $10 million, suing myself for $5 million, and suing me comrade for $5 million. For what? For defending our members' rights to a job. For defending our members' rights for a job. Not for a pay increase, not for an extra week's leave, but defending our members' right to work in our industry. So if we can be sued for tens of millions by companies, $5 million personal fines, we're not going to pay them. They will not get 1 cent from me, and I know they will not get 1 cent from me comrade. They can continue to come after us, and come after us, and come after us. But I know one thing, the democracy of our movement. This is what democracy looks like. It's not spouted out of the mouths of these rotten judges on $400,000 a year. It's decisions being made in workplaces. It's when you put your hand up to show solidarity with another worker. It's when you put your hand in the air to go on strike so that you can go home safe at night. It's when you put your hand up and say, my dignity is worth more than their courts. My dignity is worth more than their handcuffs. My dignity is worth more to me than anything that they can take away. And that's why no matter how many coppers, no matter how many politicians, no matter how many rotten courts, they will never take away our dignity, and they will never take away our right to strike. Thanks very much. Put on your back up. What do we want? The right to strike. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? The right to strike. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? The right to strike. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? The right to strike. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? The right to strike. When do we want it? Now. Too right, we want it now. And we're going to demand it. We're going to demand it. Who cares about parliamentary democracy? What a lot of bullshit. What's it mean? What's a parliament? What's a parliament for us? It's nothing for us. But I'll tell you what, for the ruling class and the henchmen up here, it means a lot. It doesn't matter if you change government. Let's hope we can change this government and get rid of that phony, two-faced Turnbull. But it doesn't mean everything, comrades. The ability, Irma hit it right on the head. It's your capacity to take the action that will count. It's your capacity that will take the action that will save a life on the job. It is your capacity that will better your standard of living. It is your capacity to get rid of the filthy, evil system of capital that we live in. That's what we need to do. You talk about fair work. What a lot of horse shit. Fair work. I'll tell you about fair work.
There's a group of workers here today and they really need a pat on the back. They're Kalmar workers, they're maintenance workers, contracted to Patrick's, this company. You know what? Those workers are out on the grass, they're taking it to the boss and they're saying to their boss, you want to play games with us? You want to try and use this phony law up here to protect your interests? Well, we don't give a rat's. We're going out in the grass and we're going to do what we're going to do to get our conditions, to get better conditions. Now, you know what? This so-called Fair Work Commission, you have a look at this for a set of standards. There's a section, it's called Section 418. Now, every union and every official knows what Section 418 is. What they do, they deem you to take illegal action, even though when we nearly lost our comrade down there at Hudson's, the workers decided they weren't going to drive that machinery because the machinery and the parameters around it had no traffic management. They said, we're not working because it's unsafe. You know where we found ourselves? In there. Because we were deemed as taking illegal action. Now these same Kalmar workers, you work it out. Unions like the CFMU, that was good, and other unions here know all about what's going on in terms of what happens up here. Section 418, you can be ordered back to work because this commission, this unfair work commission, calls it illegal action. Well, you know what? The Kalmar workers, they took legal protected action. The company that contracted to Kalmar, Patrick Stevedores, turned around and said to Kalmar, you're finished. You're finished as the maintenance. We don't want you anymore. There's too much trouble. Your workers are out in the grass. How about the 418 orders applying to those people? They've in effect locked workers out. There's no capacity for those workers to say, well, that's my job. You're my company. No, not anymore. I've just been sacked by Patrick. So it's double standards. It's double standards, comrades. I personally want to congratulate each and every one of you, and I'm a little bit different than Macca when the talk comes to the coppers. I reckon you should give the coppers a big round of applause for being here today supporting us. Good on you. Thank you, police officers. Thanks very much. We will always support you. We always really appreciate you turning up in your droves. You just got to behave yourself every now and then, that's all. But I want to tell you now, the world is your oyster if you're prepared to take the fight up. Every single job, every single workplace that you work in belongs to you. Because, they got all this machinery, they own the apparatus, they pay you, but you have the capacity and the tenacious spirit to say to these employers, we are withdrawing our labour. We are not working for you today because you've been a bastard to us. And that's what we need to do. We need to take the fight up. We need to tell every worker, tell your mate when you leave this magnificent rally, that we're not going to cop any more this rotten, evil empire institution telling us we're doing the right thing when we all know we're doing the right thing. We're not doing the wrong thing, we're doing the right thing. So as I say, give yourself a massive pat on the back and let's finish on this one, eh? Couple more? Okay, there you go. Couple more. One day longer! One day stronger! 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 What do we want? The right to strike! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? The right to strike! When do we want it? Now! That's it, I must have wax in my ears. Fair dinkum. What do we want? The right to strike! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? The right to strike! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? The right to strike! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? The right to strike! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? The right to strike! When do we want it? Now! Too right we are. Too right we do. Good on ya.
Thanks, Joey. Comrades, we've run through these speeches a lot quickly. We can talk for a lot longer. But we're going to stay here for about another 15 minutes before we wrap it up. We've got the buses going back out to Port Botany shortly. Our next speaker, Arthur Loris, is the Secretary of the South Coast Labour Council. Well, give him a round of applause.
Thanks, Paul. Comrades and friends, it gives me great pleasure to be here with you today on such an important issue, and I bring solidarity greetings from Wollongong and the South Coast. We have currently a group of workers our way. We came and visited the Fair Work Commission as well, the one that did over their agreement and gave their boss their right to strike, their boss the right to lock them out, their boss the right to terminate their agreement, gave their bosses the right in a year's time to cut their pay and conditions. This is the land that we live under at the moment, and they're their laws. I'm not going to take up all your time because you've had pretty healthy contributions so far, and I can't disagree with them. But I wanted to pick up on one issue, and it's a central issue. Let's be very clear about this. We do not ask or beg for a right to strike. Our right to strike is a human right. It's what differentiates us from slaves. Slaves are forced into work. Free men and women are free to sell their labour, albeit in a capitalist system. A slave is forced to work. A slave has no right to withdraw their labour. A slave is the one that's told they cannot withdraw their labour. The question is, are we slaves? No. Are we slaves? No. Then for Christ's sake, why do we let these bastards treat us like slaves? Our right to strike is not theirs to take from us. Our right to strike is inherent in every human being on this planet. It is a human right, and no bastard, no politician, no court can take it away from you. The question for them isn't about our right to strike. It's not theirs to give. The question for them, for the politicians and the courts and the big end of town is this: will they persist trying to make criminals out of free men and women? That is the question. And the reason we need to turf these bastards out and hold the other lot to account until they do it is not to give us our right to strike. It is to take away the laws that make us criminals for exercising our free will, our human rights as human beings. That's the question today, comrades. That's the question we must address. And the other aspect of this, we know these changes happen with groups like this. You don't get to 1 million people on the streets overnight. You start with things like this and you progress it on the key issue. The reason I'm so pleased about what you've done is that you've gone straight for the jugular. We've got a big campaign around Change the Rules, which we all wholeheartedly support and we'll back in, and we've got some terrific leadership on that question. But right in there in that agenda is this thing that stands out like the proverbial. It's staring at all of us in the face. And that is the question of whether we are free men and women or whether we are slaves. And if you believe, like all of us, that we are free and it's not theirs to take away from us, then what we must do is not come back here with this crowd. We need to come back here with 10, 20, 40, 50, 100 times this crowd and force the issue with real numbers until this is the issue that people are talking about, not in just yours, but every workplace. Solidarity.
Thanks, Arthur. Comrades, while I got yous, this Fair Work Commission, you've got union officials and workers and delegates going in because of these companies, taking us to the courts, suing us into oblivion, and that's what they're doing. Over $100 million the MUA's been fined for, over $100 million. We got 5 companies suing us here in the branch alone. Tens of millions, that is. We got the Fair Work Ombudsman. After the Hutchison dispute, after it was all settled, going us $3.7 million. And suing individual officials, as Mac has said. But there's a story here as well, comrades. I've got a good friend and comrade, the State Secretary of the AW, Paul Assistant. He might be the next state secretary, I don't know. You know. But I stay out of other unions' politics. But Paul, great mate and comrade from the AW, Assistant State Secretary, just come out of the Fair Work Commission. And I'd like to bring him up onto the stump to tell you the story that's going on right here in this city with a global multinational throwing out workers and bringing in scabs. Paul?
Yeah, thank you, comrades. And also to tell you, while this action takes place today in front of this commission, there is an action taking place right now in Port Botany with a company called Exxon. Those workers entertained enterprise negotiations for the last 12 months. What this company has decided to do, they've come up with a brilliant strategy. They said, this is the deal. You take a 30% wage cut and then we'll give you an enterprise agreement. And what they did 2 days ago, they issued notices to every worker at Exxon and they locked every worker out. What they did yesterday, they took another step and they told every maintenance worker now no longer is required. They've virtually sacked them, made them redundant and said you can reapply for a labour hire company at over less than half the rates of pay. This company is typical of what's happening now. We are moving into an environment now of modern day slavery. Under this government where corporations do what they want to, the law is on their side and workers are always the losers. Well, after this demonstration, I'm heading off to Port Botany to join those workers in their industrial disputation, but that's a product of what our nature is coming to. I think what you people, comrades, are doing here today is absolutely vital. The right to strike is really what occurs in a civilised country and separates a free worker from a worker that is basically a slave. We must bust this. Australia is heading backwards. We are getting more and more casualised labour. We can't have the right to strike. We're getting workers locking out, sacking workers, putting them on contracts. We've got to make a stand. Congratulations to everyone here today. Let's stay together. Thank you.
Comrades, that brings us to an end of the speeches. I can't thank you all enough, particularly the CFMEU have turned out dozens and maybe hundreds of workers. It's been a massive rally. It's been bigger than we thought, and it just goes to demonstrate that the right to strike doesn't exist in legislation. It exists in each and every one of us. Our ability to defend our rights comes from a simple decision. When we wake up in the morning, we say yes to our ability to defend our rights, to defend our wages and conditions, to defend our safety. We all have that ability, no matter who stands before us. And congratulate yourselves for coming today. It's been fantastic. A massive round of applause.